Hello, I'm Luca De Giglio, and this is the Web3 in Travel podcast, where you can learn about crypto, blockchain, and how the new internet will change travel.
Hi, this is the second part of the Web3 in Travel startup idea for sale. In case you missed the previous episode, here's a quick recap. I am putting out there a fully fledged idea and specifications for a startup in the travel industry leveraging Web3 technologies, specifically NFTs for bookings. And I'm also going to launch an NFT which you can purchase if you want to signal that you are taking this idea and you're trying to make it real. And by purchasing the NFT, you are also getting me as an advisor in your startup. So let's go ahead. Last time we discussed the general idea. We saw the first chapter called Advantages, meaning advantages of NFTs as bookings. And now we're going to look at the chapter called Trust. So let's read it. Trust. How do guests know that the NFT will be honored by the hotel? If there's no OTA, who will protect them? What we are envisaging is not a platform, but an open protocol. So there is no third-party protection involved. Email does not protect you from spam. It allows you to send emails. In the same way, emails doesn't protect you from the content of the email, which may be a lie or a scam. Still, email is very useful. NFT Factory is a direct booking system. You book only if you trust the hotel, in the exact same way as you book direct normally. So you'd feel comfortable booking with Hilton and less comfortable booking with a random small hotel. Having said that, the protocol will allow the creation of services on top of it, and these services will be able to add extra trust up to the point, and hopefully beyond, the trust an OTA and its brand provide. Here's another question. How do guests know the NFT is legitimate, was created by the hotel, and will be honored by them? On both the NFT and the hotel website, there is a neat address of the hotel. Those ones starting with 0x. Guests will click on a verify link on the NFT, which brings them to the hotel website, where they can check the same address is there. This is the caveat emptor. Check the guest needs to perform. This is only necessary at the protocol level for Web3 users. Web2 users are protected by the website, which can act as a filter. We'll talk about this more in detail, but the concept is important. Web3 users are on their own and need to be more careful, but have no counterparty risk. Web2 users are protected, but pay more and are more dependent on third parties. Now, I stopped reading and I comment on that because after I wrote this, we had the FTX debacle. So it became painfully clear that you're not protected by open protocols because they may have bugs or actually being written by hackers. And you're not protected by centralized exchanges neither because they could be run by criminals. There's no safety, total 100% safety in anything. It's always a choice between saying, okay, I trust this person and this brand more than I trust some random code. So I'm going to use Coinbase or Binance or FTX. Or you say, I trust the code because I can read it and this specific code hasn't been hacked for a long time. And I don't trust centralized exchanges because who knows what happens behind the scenes. There's no easy answer in that. The same thing as with the NFT Factory. And in general, bookings online, there's no perfect way. It's always a trade-off between two different ways to manage trust. Of course, I would argue that when a protocol is very mature and has got a lot of money into it and the code hasn't changed, your security goes up a lot to levels which are not reachable by any centralized exchange. I can trust Airbnb as much as I want, but then something happens and Airbnb can betray me, as it happened with COVID for hosts. While the code cannot betray me, it's there, it's immutable, it's been running like this for a long time. The probabilities that there is a bug or it can be attacked are lower and lower as the time passes. So we trust the code more. So maybe we can see it that way. Centralized systems are trustworthy, but they tend to decay, maybe in the long term. Decentralized systems tend to improve because they have to prove that they can be trusted, and time and liquidity into them make them harder, also because they are constantly attacked. But yeah, that's a discussion we already had, and we probably we're going to have in the future. Is a very central discussion in everything related to Web3. Here's another question. What if a big brand hotel for some reason doesn't honor the NFT? The answer. This can still happen due to mistakes and negligence, especially at the beginning. For this reason, we will initially only allow the use of the protocol with partners who are fully committed and prepared. They will publicly announce their commitment, and if something goes wrong, they will pay with brand reputation. Also, the first phase will have guardrails, with more centralization. The release of funds will only be approved manually. Having said that, while the internet does not forget, the blockchain writes it in stone. The cost of not honoring a commitment on chain is much higher, as it's recorded forever on an immutable ledger, and it can be programmatically retrieved. My comment here is you cannot really put this thing under the rug. It doesn't stay under the rug. You cannot really hide it. If you didn't honor a booking and it's recorded on chain, it's going to be there forever. So as Web3 becomes more prominent, it's going to be also more common to have systems which analyze and publish these kinds of behaviors. So your bad behavior on chain is recorded forever. It's scary at an individual level, but it also keeps companies and brands a bit more careful, I suppose. Here's another question. How can small hotels be part of it if it's all based on trust? Well, they will be able to stake some funds as a guarantee for the users. These funds will be managed by a Kleros court or something similar. As their reputation in the system grows, they can optionally reduce the stake. Note, stake can earn yield if they choose so. For instance, if you check the mean.finance position, it's a DeFi protocol, while your money is there waiting to be used for a limit order, it can be put in some pool. Now that's a detail, but it's kind of a first glance on how DeFi can be part of Web3 in travel in the future. Let's go back reading. In other words, if you don't have a brand people trust, you put up some collateral until you have it. Note that you don't need to build trust in your brand, which is very hard to do, but get a few bookings and honor them. All stays on chain and builds your on-chain reputation. Next chapter, the business model. The basic assumption is the more NFTs are created, the more value the protocol has. More NFTs on the market, meaning nights, means more bookings. More bookings means more companies building on top of the protocol. So we incentivize the creation of NFTs above all. $10 subscription valid for the creation of 1,000 NFTs. It's a low price. It helps to cover the gas costs and reduce spam. 0.3% of NFT price fee for each minted NFT and for each secondary market sale. Now, this is a comment on the site. Secondary market sales royalties have gone through a lot of turmoil recently. Some marketplaces didn't want to implement them, some wanted to implement them. So when deciding how much to charge and whether to charge on secondary market sales, well, first of all, it has to be done at the smart contract level, but you're going to have to look at what happens in the wider market. Okay, next point, the fee goes to a DAO managed fund for further development of the protocol. Next point, any marketplace specific fees apply independently of us. So if the purchase after the first mint is done on a secondary market like OpenSea, you got a 2.5% commission from OpenSea. This is on top of it. This we cannot remove, right? You are using their system to buy, and so only you have to pay that. Now, having said that, marketplaces fees have gone down considerably in NFT marketplaces recently. OpenSea still doesn't charge anything. Basically, they removed the fee for something like 6 months, I think. So who knows what the situation will be when this project will be launched. But you see, there's a pressure to remove fees or to reduce fees for marketplaces, which is exactly the contrary of what's happening in Web2 marketplaces, where we haven't seen a commission reduction in Booking or Airbnb forever. It's never happened. And actually, it's been increasing. So this is to kind of prove that what we call the take rate, the commission, tends to be, in Web3 tends to go down, and in Web2 tends to go up. This, of course, has to be analyzed in the wider context. It may be not a good thing that it goes lower, etc., but this is a discussion for another time. Protocol royalties. There are some royalties embedded in the smart contract meant to incentivize the users. The hotel can define a royalty for secondary market sales, minimum 0.1, max 1%. And this has to be, of course, defined. The first buyer can define a royalty for every subsequent secondary market sale, again, minimum 0.1, maximum 1%. And we need here to run some analysis to see if this can be gamed with wash trading. Wash trading in NFTs is very big. It means I can launch an NFT project, and to make you think that is very popular, I buy and sell my own NFTs forever. Of course, I'm going to pay commissions to the marketplace, but there's also royalty fees. So yeah, well, these numbers are just, numbers which I decided at the moment. If you decide to build something like this, you're going to have to come up with your own numbers and analyze the situation in the market at the moment you do that. Next point, any marketplace specific royalties fees apply independently of us. As said before, the 2.5% OpenSea fee, it's not something we can avoid. You can avoid it by not using OpenSea, buy the NFT somewhere else. All right, here's a new chapter. Layers. There's two layers. The first one is the centralized layer, the protocol. Everything is based on a set of immutable permissionless contracts. The ERC 721 and the NFT factory contracts, which allow buying, basically minting the NFT, selling the NFT, releasing the payment to the hotel. Hotels can, but are not forced to, interact with immutable permissionless contracts from minting. In this case, they pay the gas. We expect most of them to use the centralized option to avoid managing wallets. When I say decentralized option, it's like the centralized option. So most hotels will not touch wallets. And the system knows that and is prepared for that. Still, the whole system can be run in a totally decentralized way, while the centralized services being there only for those who opt in. Centralized layer, the company. Hotels can create a Web2 account, login and password on a server, pay the subscription fee, and start creating the NFT manually or programmatically. The centralized parts will be managed by the company. Cashing out. Hotels without a wallet can cash out by defining the cash out address as at their exchange address, for instance, Binance or Coinbase, converting to fiat and then withdraw. For the few hotels able to manage wallets, they will be able to interact with the smart contract directly and create NFTs without having to pay a subscription, but only a fixed fee of $0.1 per NFT, again, to reduce spam. Now we have a sub-page called Protocols and Services. The protocol is a public good composed of a set of open and immutable smart contracts anyone can use and upon which we have no control. It also comprises the front-end code. They are both open and forkable. We will basically write them and release them into the wild. This is the NFT factory protocol. The services are what the company does to make things easier for the user, e.g. hotels which can't manage wallets, and extract value out of the ecosystem. This is where we make the money, basically. This is the NFT factory company. Another paragraph. NFT Factory Labs and NFT Factory Company. We will thus have two separated entities. NFT Factory Labs will create and maintain the protocol, which is permissionless and open source. It will be organized as a DAO, open to contributions on the open source code, managing and distributing grants, and so on. It will generate revenue from the protocol and use it to further development and create a treasury for grants. It will also be funded by the NFT Factory Company. The NFT Factory Company will take care of the centralized services, again, the centralized services, such as the front end for NFT creation, NFT custodial services, and so on. It will be a startup which raises money from VCs and aims to grow and generate value on top of the protocol with a possible final exit. The relationship between the two parties will be symbiotic. NFT Factory Labs will create the open basis, the protocol, on which a whole ecosystem will grow. The services will be provided by NFT Factory Company, with the aim to both generate revenue and make the protocol usable by anyone, without the need to know anything about Web3. In other words, the NFT Factory Company's job is to make things compatible with Web2 by eliminating the need for wallets, which are today the biggest roadblock to adoption. Making the protocol entities separate from the services also allows an easier long-term transition to a pure Web3 approach. A user who learns to use wallets simply stops using the services, trading comfort for control and sovereignty. I kind of hope I said this word correctly. Sovereignty. Sovereign, like when you are in charge, when you are your own citizen and not a subject of the king. Sovereign. Anyway, this will happen only when wallets become more user-friendly and secure. And as you know, we talked about that. There's a lot of work in that space, luckily. Let's keep on reading. The key concept here is that this transition happens at the user's own pace. Note, some Web3 users may say that going native results in a more comfortable user experience than the clunky Web2 intermediated interfaces. And I tend to agree. But let's remember that this is highly subjective, and forcing this view on Web2 users is a recipe for failure. We will meet them where they are. Another chapter inside this chapter, more about the protocol. Who keeps the NFTs safe? Web3, the NFTs are in the guest wallet all the time from the moment they are minted. Web2, the NFTs are in the guest's custodial wallet all the time from the moment they are minted and kept secure by the company. Let me add something which I didn't put in the specifications and I will put now. They may be kept in the smart contract too. When you custody digital assets for people, you either create a wallet for them, which they don't touch, they manage it through a Web2 interface, but you are keeping the private keys safe, or you keep them in the smart contract and you kind of map the specific NFT to the specific user. This is technical, but it has to be said. You don't really have to create a wallet for them all the time. You can make it interact with the smart contracts. At the moment, I think it's better to create some custodial wallets so that every NFT is in a specific wallet and it is compatible with the marketplaces out there. Who keeps the money safe? The money guests pay for the NFT are in the smart contract. The safety of the money is a function of the safety of the smart contracts themselves. Are the smart contracts safe? It depends on the quality of the coding. A bugged smart contract is unsafe and will be drained. The best heuristic for evaluating the safety of a smart contract is to see if it had a lot of money in it for a lot of time. This means that at the beginning, the smart contract will be considered not very safe. And as time goes by without a hack and the money in them increases, the safety assumption will grow. This is also the reason why they are immutable and not upgradable. It makes it impossible to insert bugs during a minor upgrade, because there's no minor upgrade, just to be clear. At the beginning, the best way to reduce the risk is to have comprehensive audits. Now, these are my comments. Audits have been proven to be important, find many bugs, etc. But having an audit or several audits doesn't guarantee you anything. There's no full guarantee ever. There's just like a growing safety of the system, of the smart contract. It grows toward 100%. It never actually reaches 100%. Nothing reaches 100% security anyway. Let me make a few comments on the side of this. What is actually being kept secure here? We have NFTs, which represent nights, and then we have money, right? So the guest buys or mints the NFT, the money goes in the smart contract, and that's real money. There's like, USDC or USDT and anything else. And then there are NFTs. If there's a big hack, you can replace NFTs and say, okay, there's been a big hack. All the NFTs in the past are considered not valid. We can issue new ones on new addresses or whatever. It's going to be a mess, of course, but you can say, okay, NFTs have been compromised. Don't give the room for them, or make an extra check or whatever. We have to think this through a bit better. But the money is gone. So if the smart contract holds a lot of money, then this is really gone. And this is one of the delicate parts of this project, because it is considering to keep the money in the smart contracts until the hotel withdraws the money. Now, I would like to find a better way where the smart contracts are not doing that, are not having an escrow role, but I think at the moment the only way is to do that and try to do it as safely as possible. Luckily, escrow contracts are not something new, so you can reuse the safest one out there and be pretty sure that it cannot be hacked. Of course, then the security moves to who is controlling these smart contracts. Well, if nobody controls them and only the hotel can withdraw the money, then you have moved the risk to the hotel themselves. But if you're offering a Web2 service where the hotels don't manage wallets, then the company is taking that risk. The risk assumptions in this whole project are very, very complex, and they have to be analyzed very, very carefully. New chapter, the DAO. The protocol will be run by a DAO. The company will write the code and deploy it. Once deployed, the company loses control over it and starts developing the next version. Plus, it keeps improving the front ends, which are not immutable. Once the code is deployed, the DAO starts taking care of it. Now, let me make a comment here. This is not, it could be different. It could be that the DAO itself writes the code. It doesn't really matter who writes the code as long as it's good code. Because once it's deployed, that's when it becomes immutable, right? So this is a matter of discussion. It's a matter of deciding who writes the code. But it doesn't really matter too much. Uniswap Labs writes the code. It's a company, it's a startup, but once the code is out there, it's immutable. So it doesn't matter who wrote it. Satoshi Nakamoto wrote Bitcoin. Who cares who they were, who he or she was? The code is there, and whoever wrote it cannot change it. Let's go on reading. There are a few major areas in which the DAO will act. Treasury management. The 0.3% fee for each minted NFT and for each secondary market sale will go to the DAO treasury, managed by a multi-sig safe of elected signers. Treasury expenses. Once the treasury has enough money in it, the DAO will start spending it, with the aim to improve the protocol, front ends, and so on. It will also fund grants, hackathons, and so on. Switches. While the smart contract code is immutable, there will be some ways to edit parameters. For instance, the 0.3% fee won't be hard-coded, but it will allow a switch to raise it to 1%. This can be done only with a vote from the DAO. Other switches may be conceived in future protocol releases. Having said that, we are aware of the dangers of excessive governance. My comments now: it's always better to have protocols which do not rely on any kind of governance, because governance is messy, can be captured. We discussed this in the past. But at the same time, you want to keep some flexibility. Who is to say that the 0.3% fee is a good idea? Why don't we do a 1% fee? Well, if we don't insert these as a variable, then you will need to do a new version. And new versions in open protocols are very big events. If you define 0.3% minimum, 1% maximum, worst case scenario, 1% is voted. It can't really go too wrong, right? So yeah, that's how I conceived it, but take into consideration all these aspects. TRIPS community. This is an incomplete part of the specifications, and I wrote down to do. Explain what it is, how much we learn, and how much we can leverage and involve the community. We are the oldest DAO in travel and one of the oldest in general, and few have this level of insight on how to run a DAO. So initially, the idea was to develop this with the TRIPS community. And well, as I told you, I don't think I want to do that, not even as a community. But then as I was writing this, I realized this has to be done as a DAO plus company symbiotic relationship, so that we can offer open, immutable protocols on one side and usable interfaces and custodial services on the other side. And TRIPS community only can offer one part of it. If you decide to do this as a startup and you want to do this in partnership with TRIPS community, then yes, let's talk about this. I mean, we have over 5 years of experience in being a DAO in travel. We have safes, we have all the knowledge needed. And yeah, I would be very happy to be TRIPS in this project. So yeah, this is coming to mind to me right now as I'm doing that. If you just want to do the startup part, TRIPS community could be your DAO for this. Or meaning we would probably launch a new DAO for this specific project. That's probably another option. But yeah, let's keep this idea open. As I'm talking about it, I realize it does make sense, because I can see a couple of people saying, I want to do a startup. I like this idea. How are you going to do a DAO? Doing a DAO is a really big thing. It's really hard. Yeah, keep this in mind. We may be there for that. Another chapter inside the DAO chapter is dedicated to the safe. By safe here, we are referring to the treasury and specifically to the Gnosis safe set of smart contracts, which renamed to safe recently. Bad renaming, because now when I refer to them, I can't just say safe. Safe is just too much general term. So I always end up saying the safe, the Gnosis safe, etc. Anyway, crypto is great for bad namings, so let's go on with that. Let me read that. Safe is quickly becoming the OS operating system of Web3. It is a set of smart contracts developed by one of the oldest, 2016, and most reputable companies in crypto, Gnosis, spelled with Gnosis, which is also, by the way, a blockchain, previously called XDAI, now it's called Gnosis. It started as a simple multisig, which is by far the biggest in the space, and it is used by the most prominent projects in the space. Its smart contracts secure over $30 billion in digital assets and over 100,000 safes deployed. Now, I wrote this a few months ago, and right now I went to check the last numbers. It is $38 billion now. It's mostly because prices went up, but also because many more safes have been created, and they are at 135,000. Now, this is a 30%, increase in a few months, and it's going to go higher and higher. Just yesterday, it was discovered that there was a vulnerability in the Apple iOS, so iPhones and Macs, which allowed hackers to steal a lot of money from crypto OGs, from big crypto people who are keeping the money in a much more safe environment than your usual Web3 user. But because of this vulnerability, they could drain wallets. What is the solution to that? You move your money from a wallet to a smart contract. You move your money from one wallet to a smart contract safe with maybe 3 different addresses, 2 out of 3. They hack you one, they can now hack you 2 of them. So I'm expecting Safe to grow a lot in the future. We haven't seen anything yet. Safe is becoming, as I was saying at the beginning, the operating system of Web3. It is going to be huge. Let me go on reading that. At Trips, we have been using it for years, and we have developed an internal battle-tested procedure to make transaction initiation and execution as secure as possible. Safe grew from being a simple multi-sig to supporting an ever-growing number of apps, such as multi-send, DEXs, aggregators, money flow, on-chain income sharing, lending and borrowing, DCA, fiat on-ramps, voting, and so on. In short, the DAO can interact with all the Web3 protocols out there from the security of the safe. Building on the experience acquired during the last 5 years on Trips community, we will hold yearly elections for the 9 signers of the DAO, store the proceedings of the protocol, cash grants, and other sources of income, for instance airdrops, in the safe. Activate governance when needed to approve transactions. Use of Safe Snap when necessary. Safe Snaps allow votes to execute a safe transaction automatically, meaning vote, for instance, send money to this grant on that address. If yes wins, the transaction is executed automatically. Subsafes. Specific projects inside the DAO will have their own safes, created and managed using the safe protocols we have already created. This will allow a distributed management of resources, rules clarity, and execution transparency. Now, between the time I wrote this and now, something happened. Safe has spin off into a DAO to manage the safe itself. And they made an airdrop of tokens, governance tokens, called Safe. These tokens are not on the market because they're not transferable yet. We received, as Trips community, some of them, so we are kind of part of the DAO. I received some of them personally. I have become personally a delegate of the Safe, so I'm voting on proposals using the votes of other people who delegated me. And Trips community is one of the Safe guardians. So we are very involved with Safe itself, which means, we are very comfortable in using this technology, basically, and that's what I can suggest for any DAO at the moment. There are other solutions out there, many actually, but so far, the one I would suggest so far, based on my knowledge, for a DAO, is Safe. For a company, maybe not. You need to have good, control of these wallets. So if I wouldn't touch a Safe too much if I'm not comfortable with wallets. So companies may look into different treasury solutions, but Web3 projects, DAOs, for them, Safe is basically one of the best, if not the best. Another chapter I haven't actually written is tokenomics. I haven't figured out how and if to have a token for this project, so we leave it there. Next chapter inside the DAO chapter is governance. Let's read it. If there is something we learned in these 5 years as a DAO and as part of the industry, is that governance is hard. Having token holders vote is incredibly exciting, but at the same time, a working system should not rely on human intervention to function. A protocol should just work, and not hopefully keep working even if token holders vote something completely insane, or hopefully keep working even if some whale buys a lot of tokens to damage the protocol. democracy can be captured. So we need to protect the protocol from both adversarial actors and ill-informed decisions. The protocol itself will offer as little as possible attack surface. Initially, just the fee switch, which defines the fee paid to use the protocol. We discussed this a few minutes ago. The DAO, on the other hand, has to be as decentralized as possible, meaning the power has to be distributed so that everyone knows there is little risk that one person or a small group can rug pull everyone. Rug pull is this term like to basically steal, run away, whatever. At the same time, everyone votes on everything is completely inefficient. Here's how we will run the DAO from the governance standpoint. The money is in a treasury managed by an elected group. We use vote delegation, which so far has proven to be the best way to get informed votes. Operative tasks are managed by small teams, which, after getting the approval by a DAO vote, are free to work on specific tasks and use the assigned budget without further votes. Here I will add that delegates should be paid. This is a discussion which has been going on for a while recently. It's a hard work to keep track of what's happening inside DAO, and if you are a delegate, you should probably be paid. Okay, so the chapter ends with two internal chapters I haven't finished. One is the ENS, so the Ethereum naming system service. The one with tripscommunity.eth, which represents a specific address, etc. There will be use of them because it makes addresses more recognizable. If the NFT is emitted by hotelcartlon.eth and you go and check that it corresponds with the real one, it's better than if it is emitted by 0x whatever. And the other sub-chapter is the DAO team. I haven't written down this because I didn't define a team at the time. Okay, so we are done with the DAO. We discussed how the DAO can manage and improve the protocol. The next part is going to be the company. So how we will run this, how we will offer an easy front end for most users. And so see you next time. And we're done. Thank you for listening to this episode. For more insights, follow me on Twitter at tripluca, TRIPLUCA. If you enjoy my podcast and want to support it, head on to podcast.web3intravel.com, 3 is a digit, and mint an NFT. If you want to sponsor it, you can do it at the same page. I will mention you in the podcast, and your name will appear on all donation NFTs for a while. Thank you, and ciao.